Okay, let's go ahead and begin. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. So today's topic is called Last of All and Servant of All. And this comes from a passage in Mark 9:35, and it says, "And he sat down and called the 12." Christ called the 12 disciples, and he says to them, "If anyone desires to be first, he must be last of all and servant of all." So this comes as a commandment from Christ himself, saying if anyone desires to be first in any way possible, he must be last of all and servant of all. And to give you the context, the disciples were actually arguing about who's the greatest. So imagine the 12 disciples, we see them, we have them here on the iconostasis, and we see them as these great figures. But when they were very young, they were still learning the Christian principles. They were arguing about who is the greatest disciple. Sometimes they would see, Christ had the three, Peter, James, and John. Like they saw the transfiguration. They would go with Christ certain areas. Peter seemed to be like the leader. John seemed to have, Christ had a soft spot for him when they would eat. Like for example, when we see the Last Supper, they're sitting at a table, but that's not actually how they would eat. They would kind of eat on the ground. If they had a table, it would only be a few inches high, and they would lean on their left hand. And after they all eat, and they use their right hand to dip and eat, but they're kind of like laying on their side. That's how people ate back then. And afterwards, it would say that John would lay his head on the bosom of Christ, because after they eat, they take like a siesta, like a little nap, and they just lay on their back, and Christ would be always next to St. John. So they were arguing, who's the greatest? I get to lay my head on Christ. I'm the leader of the disciples. And sometimes this maybe doesn't happen nowadays so overtly, but it can happen maybe within myself. Like, am I the best at this? Do the kids really like when I give the lesson, or do they think I'm the funniest? They always want to hang out with me. Am I known for this? Am I known for that? And these thoughts can easily come. And Christ tells us, he who desires to be first must be last of all and servant of all. And even in secular teaching, like if you read any books on leadership, this is actually a really popular idea now called servant leadership. So in Christianity, it's a very basic principle. But in leadership, this is like a new idea called servant leadership, where instead of having a triangle like the CEOs up top, and then the executives, and it goes like a pyramid or a triangle shape, it's supposed to be inverted. That's the idea. And this is a Christian principle, is that the leader is at the very bottom. The Pope is washing the feet of everyone else, and then the bishops and the priests and the servants and so on. So instead of a hierarchy where now I'm a servant, I finished pre-servants, now I'm a servant, and I see myself as like, that means like I'm a teacher or I have authority. It's the exact opposite. It means I'm a washer of feet. The kids in Sunday school, for example, they would be our masters. So there's two ideas we'll discuss quickly. Last of all, servant of all, and then we'll discuss obstacles. Each one will take just 5-7 minutes, so it won't be too long. But what does it mean to say to be last of all? And just let's get a few answers before, if someone has a microphone. You have a microphone? Who can give us a couple of answers? Quick answers.
Just like putting others before yourself, thinking of yourself last, making sure everybody else is like taken care of before you take care of yourself.
Okay, taking care of other people before taking care of yourself. Okay, very good. And then Carmen.
I think it's also like humbling yourself, like not thinking that you're better than everybody else or that you have like better ideas, but it's just basically humbling yourself and understanding that, that you're you and that everybody has, different qualities and different strengths to bring.
Okay, very good. So humbling yourself, the way you see yourself, like not like you're the best or anything. That's very good. What else? Maybe one more answer. I'm gonna have to volunteer people. Let's get Mike to give us an answer. What does last of all mean to you, Mike?
Christ-like, yep. Perfect, thank you. No, I think also, knowing that it's not me, it's not coming from me, it's not it was given to me by my Father, and having that mindset of knowing it's not Michael, it's coming from my Father.
Yeah, even the role itself, that's a very good point. Like, as a servant, it's not like, a position. It's something that's given to me. Actually, why did the deacons, for example, come and they present their tunics to the priest or bishop? It's because we serve God, at His pleasure. It's not like I can just come, I'm serving, as soon as I arrive at church, I just put my tunic on and go do whatever I want. It's I come humbly saying, can I serve? So anything we do, it's at the pleasure of those whom we serve and at God's pleasure and command. So that's a very good point. The Greek word actually for last is eschatos, like eschatology, the study of the last things, or the great eschaton, the final judgment. So Christ didn't say, I want you to be second place or third place. He said, I want you to be last of all. To be last of all, to take the worst seat willingly. Of my own accord, I take the worst seat. To be okay with, and this again is a mentality, to be okay with whatever state or whatever condition I'm placed in. If we go out to eat or whatever, if the food is not that good, I don't complain. I say, anytime someone asks me about something, I say it's okay. I don't always have to be so opinionated, like I really like this, I like that, I can't eat here, I can eat here. Just, to be a simple person, to put myself last of all. Even if we're, going on a retreat somewhere or something like that with the kids, a lot of times these places have simple bunk beds or something like that. I can just say, it's okay. I'm not expecting a 5-star restaurant, but I don't have to say, like, there's no way I can sleep here or this and that. Like, just to be a simple person, to say I'm going to take the worst seat. And again, I'm not giving, like, specific examples. Some people, like, they may have back problems or dietary restrictions. So not to discount that. This is just a mentality that I'm trying to explain. To be okay with whatever is presented to me. Even if I'm placed in a service that I don't want to do, but I've been asked to do it. I've been placed in a class with an age group that I really don't enjoy serving. I'd rather be in a different age group, to be okay with whatever I'm presented. So that's the mentality, is that who am I to serve in the first place? And therefore, who am I to make requests? I come and I serve at God's pleasure and command. It also means to be willing to do any difficult job. In service, there's maybe the prestigious jobs or the jobs that everyone can see, and I get the glory for, if I'm given the lesson that day, everyone knows I gave the lesson. Or I go and the parents know that I'm the one doing this. But there's a lot of behind-the-scenes tasks, the dirty jobs, so to speak. Those are the things that I should actually look forward to doing, the difficult jobs that no one else wants to do. Placing others ahead of me, especially in honor. This is the most important thing. Who receives credit and honor and the glory for anything, even if it was my idea, even if I came up with this, even if it was my idea to do this trip or whatever, I shouldn't care about receiving the honor. To put myself last when it comes to receiving honor and credit. I want it to be so that only heaven sees my works. Only heaven sees exactly what's happening behind the scenes, that if it was anything that I did of my own accord, I don't want credit for it. That's the mentality I should have. It's okay if I receive credit, people find out. I don't have to go to extreme lengths to hide every little thing. But the mentality is what I'm talking about. And service, sometimes, we don't want to see it as a competition. I'm competing with other people. And sometimes if there's a new servant, then I say, okay, this servant's going to come and steal my thunder, make me look bad. Maybe I'm the one that's known for this. I do this task or whatever. The kids know me for this. The parents know me for this. And now there's new servants. Maybe they'll steal my thunder. This is a competitive way to think, a secular way to think, not the right way to think in service. The disciples in Matthew 20:24, it says, when the 10 heard about this, when James and John went to Christ, they said, can we sit on your right and left? It says, when they heard about this, they were indignant with the two brothers. And it was a spirit of competition between them. But the humble person, of his own accord, when it says to be last of all, he of his own accord puts himself last and has the attitude of a student, even with my co-servants. It's not like I'm the main servant and these are like my assistant servants. I am, the word servant, I am their servant or slave. I serve them. And so I place myself last and I have the attitude of a student. I can learn from my co-servants. I can learn from the students. I can learn from the coordinator and from everyone around me. They would say about St. Anthony the Great, the first monastic, They called him, St. Athanasius, when he was writing his biography, he said he was like a bee, like the insect, the bee. What does a bee do? It goes from one plant to the next, getting the nectar. And it just goes from one flower to the next, and it doesn't discriminate. It goes everywhere and it collects. And that's what St. Anthony was doing. He would hear about this person who was very generous, and he would willingly go and ask if he could be his servant and live with him for a couple of months and learn generosity. And he would go learn how to be a loving person or a humble person. And he would look at these virtues as, how can I collect them from all the people around me? This person is much more loving and patient than I am. I can go learn from this person. And so this is the idea of a servant, is everyone around me, even here in the servants meeting, I can learn from. Even if it's a lesson that I gave, and maybe I gave a much better lesson and it's more nuanced and everything, I can still learn from this person, even if he's younger than me. It's a recent graduate from pre-servants who's 15 years old. I can still learn from that person, maybe in his mannerisms and whatever it is, to always see myself as a student and to humble myself. St. John the Baptist, when he was, he was known as John the Baptist, the baptizer. And when Christ and his disciples started baptizing people, the disciples of John came and they said, he is now baptizing people. And they were trying to rile him up and say, look, the thing that you're known for, now other people are doing. He is baptizing more than you, they told him. And he said, I must decrease and he must increase. This is something I say about Christ. He must increase and I must decrease. But it's also something I say about all my co-servants. If I'm truly last of all, then I want to say he must increase, she must increase, and I must decrease. This is the mentality that I have if I'm to place myself last of all. And it means to be obedient and to submit my will. Sometimes, I'm only content, I'm only happy if my idea wins out. But the whole point of being last of all is, even if we don't go with my idea, is I can still be content. I offered an idea. If we use it, great. It doesn't matter. I don't need the credit or honor. And if we don't go with it, it really doesn't matter. To have simplicity, to be okay in whatever state. Like St. Paul said, to be content in whatever state he finds himself in. So if I'm not chosen to serve a certain service, I'm not chosen as a coordinator, as a board member, as a deacon, as whatever it is, I'm still content because I never aspired to be a servant in the first place. It was a blessing from God. It was God's grace that allowed me to serve. Does that make sense? It's not something I earned. Like I went to school and got a job and was promoted and earned all these things. In service, no matter what I did, if I completed pre-servants, if I did anything, it's still God's grace that allows me to be a servant. So I never look for more. The person who's last of all also serves in secret as much as possible, allows only heaven to see his work. Like St. Mary, today we read in the gospel that she went to see her cousin Elizabeth, and she stayed with her for 3 months. And it says she left essentially right before Elizabeth gave birth. And that might sound weird, like why would she help? And then at the very time she needs her, she suddenly leaves, because everyone now had heard, and everyone now was coming to attend to Elizabeth. And if she would have been there, she would have received the credit and honor and glory for the last 3 months when no one else was there. And so she left and allowed all the other people to attend to her because she wanted to serve in secret. She wanted to be in the shadows. And this is the mentality that we should have, is that I don't need credit for anything that I do. Also, to be okay with any service means to not be opinionated. Some people, you disagree with them and it's like World War III is going to begin. It shouldn't be like, I shouldn't be so opinionated about everything. Like, I like things this way. It has to be this. It has to be. I need to be a simple person when it comes to really anything in service. Anything when it comes to the church, anything when it comes to service, anything when it comes to my co-servants. But a prideful person will judge and critique others, and not the good type of criticism, like constructive criticism. Destructive criticism is different, where I think I know better, I have better experience. I can teach them, but they can't teach me. I have nothing to learn from people around me, but I have a lot to teach them. And I criticize and I critique. And the way I look at things, this is destructive criticism. It's okay, of course, to have constructive criticism, but my way is the right way only. That's when it's wrong. And again, like I mentioned in today's sermon, there's something called false humility, where sometimes I say, I'm really bad at this, I'm not good at this. But then if someone else says that same thing, then I get very offended. This shows, do I really believe that? So this is last of all. The second part is servant of all. What does it mean, if we can pass around the microphone and get a couple of answers, what does it mean to be servant of all? So we just discussed last of all. What does it mean to be servant of all? Like they're itching to raise their hands. Well, let's choose someone that hasn't. Carmen, you already went. We got to choose new people now. If no one else goes, we'll give you another shot, Carmen.
To go beyond the job description. If you're only a servant for a particular group and there's another group that needs help, you can offer your help there as well, or see if there's anything that you can do to contribute.
That's a very good point. To not see it as like, this is my job, I'm going to do the bare minimum. I'll put the minimum efforts in. And is that really a servant? Like if you have, back then, there were like indentured servants or hired servants. Or if you hire someone like and something falls on the ground, there's a mess. Like he's like, well, I did my duty, I'm not cleaning that. That's not a servant, right? A servant just does whatever is asked of him, and even more so. So not seeing it as like a job description, I do my duties. So very, very good point. That's what it means to be servant of all. One there, and then Christine.
I think it also to truly be able to serve, internally you have to be in the right place, and it starts with like truly, like you said, being in that humble stage, like having love in your heart and truly committing to what you're going to do, not like begrudgingly doing something or say, oh, I'm only doing this because I have to or because I know what's right. It's like truly wanting to help others and having that love in your heart for everything that you're about to do.
That's a very good point. Not doing things begrudgingly, because St. Paul even says to servants, he says, do it heartily with heart as if you're serving the Lord himself. And so at church, of course, are the ultimate person we're serving. We're not getting a paycheck or getting an evaluation or something. It's service before God. Everything.
And just not only serving in like the formal capacity of I'm a servant at church, but we should be serving our families, our friends, our coworkers, just having that servant heart to help in all of our roles that we have.
That's a very good point. Even if I'm driving on the side of the road, I'm still a servant of all, and I'm last of all. Even in my job, sometimes it can seem weird, like in a secular workplace, to try to be so meek and like, are you not going to update your resume? So it just what I'm saying is it has to be an internal thing. I see myself as a servant everywhere I go, even if I have accolades and degrees and a resume, and so it has nothing to do with that. It's an internal condition, and like Christine was saying, anywhere I go. And there is a priority list. Like, for example, you have to prioritize your family. You can't leave your family abandoned on the side of the road and go help another family. So obviously there's a priority list, but that's a very good point. Wherever I am, I see myself as a servant of God. Yeah, so the first point I was going to discuss, like Irene mentioned, is help others without them even asking you. So a true servant, like if you're thinking of a palace, a king has several servants, rushes to the door, even if no one asks them. They see something, someone needs to open a door. Like if we see like an elderly lady struggling or something, am I going to say, well, I already did my Sunday school today, I'm done for the day, and just leave them struggling? So to be a servant, even if I'm not asked to do something, a kid is struggling and, I can tell like something is off. Maybe, me and another servant talk to them, or we help new kids settle in, help new servants settle in without being asked. In Luke 17, it says, so likewise you, when you have done all those things which you are commanded, so after you've done everything you're already commanded to do, say, we are unprofitable servants. We have done simply what was our duty to do. This is Christ speaking in Luke 17. Even after we do our duty, we don't say, okay, now, we're great servants. He says to say, we are unprofitable servants. We have simply done what was our duty to do. And the beautiful thing I like about St. Mary going to help St. Elizabeth is she did it hastily. That's a true servant. So to do things hastily, not to drag my feet. And in Sunday school or any service, sometimes we drag our feet, maybe because I don't agree. Maybe we all gave our opinion, and a different opinion than mine was chosen. And so now I drag my feet. but a servant is able to submit, is able to be humble, and to do what's asked of them without making excuses. To be a servant of all also means as soon as I know I can help someone, I don't waste time to do it. Like even in Proverbs it says, if you have money to lend to someone, don't wait several days to give it to them that day. Same mentality. I don't discriminate between those whom I serve. I don't show partiality. If I'm a servant of all people, then I don't say, well, I like this person, I'll help him. Or sometimes if there's a distinguished guest, we have a guest speaker or a bishop is coming or something, I'll pick them up from the airport, I'll do this, I'll get the food, I'll do everything. But this other person, he can feed himself, he can do this. I won't help this person, but I'll help this person. Maybe, there's glory in it. I'm, now seen next to this person, but am I doing the same, serving the poor, serving the needy, serving anyone around me? Do I have favorites in my class where I treat one kid different than another kid? This is in the book of James, of course, where he says if you see people dressed finely and you tell them, come, have a seat, and the poor, you leave them at the door, in the early churches as they were worshiping. So there are no exceptions. Servant of all people. I serve the person I find annoying. I serve the critical person. I serve a newcomer. I serve the person that goes unnoticed. A lot of kids, maybe they're very to themselves. They go unnoticed, and we just assume they're doing fine. But they can tell, if there's any partiality in a Sunday school class, the kids are the first to tell. They can immediately tell. Imagine a parent showing partiality and the effect that would have on a child. It's very, very similar in Sunday school. This is one of the most important points, is that we can show no partiality. I have no favorites. I treat no one differently, because it causes, lasting damage. So even if I find someone annoying, difficult, inconvenient, or who even asks for help at inconvenient times, I show no partiality. I treat everyone the same. In Luke 14, it says, then he also said to him who invited him, when you give a dinner or a supper, do not ask your friends, your brothers, your relatives, nor rich neighbors, lest they also invite you back and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, for you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just. So, when you're having a party, it doesn't mean you can't invite family and friends. Christ is speaking hyperbolically here to say the essence of service is when I do something unto others and I don't expect anything back. That's what Christ is teaching. I don't only help this person because I know, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That type of mentality. I do a favor for you, you do a favor for me. So in service, it's not like that. I serve everyone freely and willingly. Freely you have received, freely give. And again, so favoritism. Sometimes maybe I know this kid and I know his parents. I'm friends with the kid's parents. And so now I really have to treat it. And it's not like that. Again, I treat everyone exactly the same. Okay, so those were the two things we discussed. Last of all, servant of all. Just 2-3 minutes, we'll discuss the final thing, which is what are the obstacles to being a true servant of all and to place myself last of all. And I'll just go over a couple very quickly since we're almost over time. One is the title. Sometimes my title as servant, even though it's the word servant, like I'm supposed to be a servant, like a slave, like serving other people. In the church, because we've gotten so used to that term, now it's like, oh, he's a servant, like, it's like the leader of the Sunday school classroom or whatever. Or the word coordinator, or the word board member, or a deacon, or priest, or anything. Even sometimes as a priest, like the obstacle could be the way I'm dressed. I dress this way, so now people treat me this way. And so it's an obstacle to me actually being a servant. And the titles that we have can be the obstacles themselves. There was a story of Saint Pachomius, the father of Koinonia. Koinonia is the Greek word for fellowship. And he was a pagan convert to Christianity, actually. He wasn't born Christian. And it said when he was in the monastery, and he was a leader of the monasteries, and he had thousands under him. And this was in the 4th century, so like in the heyday, in the golden era of monasticism. They asked him, some of the people came and they asked him, why are the monasteries not as strong as before? And it was only like a generation or two removed from St. Anthony. and St. Macarius. But they asked him, why are the monasteries today not as strong as they were before? And St. Pachomius responded to them saying, because the elders make the juniors serve them. The elders, now that they are the ones that are older and more experienced, they expect, if we can close that door in the back. If the elders, they make the juniors serve them. So what does that mean? The elders make the juniors serve them, is that they expect it. Sometimes when I achieve a certain position or a certain title or a certain age, now I expect I've achieved this, I'm the servant finally, and I am to be served by those younger than me. I'm the coordinator, now I am served by the other servants, but it's the exact opposite. Christ came and he inverted the triangle. The people at the very top are now at the very bottom serving all others. So Christ came, he washed the disciples of the feet. So that's the first obstacle, my title as servant. The second would be loving the glory of the service more than the service itself, or more than those whom I serve. So our focus should be the people and the hard work that comes along with service. Abuna Dawud Lamai, he said a really nice story. He said when he was young, he was maybe in his early 20s or mid-20s. He was a young doctor. He had just graduated. He had a nice car. You know, at that time in the 70s, like, you know, barely anyone had a car in Cairo. And so he felt like, all right, we can finally do a visitation. We don't have to walk all the way like, from this neighborhood to that neighborhood. So he was going with an older servant, and he was still young in his 20s. So he said, you know, come ride with me. We'll go visit the kids in the car. And the older servant told him, when you go do a visitation, you have to labor for the service. At the end of the day, you should feel tired. You should feel like you've done, you've earned your rest at the end of the day. You've worked for these kids. And so sometimes what the obstacle can be is that I want the glory that's associated with the service. I'm a Sunday school servant. I'm a deacon. I'm a board member. I'm a coordinator. And I want the glory that goes with that title and that position. But I don't want the hard work that comes along with it. And I don't focus on the people. Christ said if someone asks you to walk 1 mile, walk with him 2. The first mile is, like Irene was mentioning, the job description, the minimum duty. And sometimes that's what I want to do, is I want to do the very bare minimum, whatever is required of me, whatever is asked of me. Christ says to walk the 2nd mile. Now I'm doing things that aren't even asked of me, but because I have the heart of a servant, I want to labor for those whom I serve. And then finally, the last one is I don't accept the difficulties. So sometimes there's people complaining, criticizing. To be last of all means I accept the good and the bad. There's pros and cons in any service. There's the glory and there's the difficulties. So to conclude, the obstacles, again, it's my title as a servant, loving the glory more than the service or those whom I serve. Number 3 is not accepting the difficulties that come with service. So we serve joyfully and we should serve secretly. If we serve joyfully and secretly, then we can put ourselves last of all and servant of all. Glory be to God forever. Let's stand up and pray.